It is a nice intro, I gotta say. Good job. So welcome back.
Did you write that yourself?
He did.
Yeah, I'm playing. That's me.
Every note. I hear a D minor in there. So aggressively healthy. Welcome back. Friday. It's a morning.
Feels like it's been a long time, but
Well,
it hasn't.
it hasn't, but we've been experiencing, I don't really understand what it is, but some sort of cold weather that's like intolerable. Is it just me, or is it anybody else notice that every time you walk outside it hurts?
Yeah. My face is falling off.
So we've been dealing with this like 0 degree stuff, crunchy snow. It's not going anywhere. So any suggestions? Actually, it's a good topic, right? So you wake up, it's freezing cold outside. Any suggestions on how to get yourself a little bit motivated to actually go out, get in your car, and go to the gym?
I mean, I'm a big believer in just like the obstacle is the way. Like if you're afraid, or if it's something that's like creating a challenge or an obstacle, you just go through it. Like,
so I've been doing.
That's me.
I actually had an interesting experience recently. By default, it happened. The electricity to my bedroom, whatever happened, it doesn't work. So there's no lights in my room. So if you like hit the light switch or you try to plug something in, it doesn't work. But I haven't fixed it. And I've consciously not fixed it, because what it does is going into the bedroom, you can't turn the lights on. So after the sun sets, you kind of have to deal with a dark room. And when you go to bed, there's no plug next to the bed to plug something into. So you have to plug in your phone somewhere else. So I've been plugging my phone in the closet or in the bathroom, so that the alarm, when it goes off, I don't even have the opportunity to hit snooze.
Yeah.
So I have to get up and go address the alarm. But I think it's a little bit of a hack, and it's kind of interesting because it reset my ability to get up without dragging. Because, when winter comes, it gets a little irritating, a little lull in motivation, and it kind of reinvigorated me. Do you do anything kind of like tricking yourself like that? Because it's almost kind of like fooling myself into having to deal with the noise.
Yeah.
But are there any offerings you can give to people this time of year? Because it's truly depressing. Like, you wake up, it's dark, you go to bed, it's dark, it's hard to motivate. Any offerings?
I've always plugged my phone in across the room. Like, I always, for the last 15 years, or whenever I started using my phone as an alarm clock, I've always had it away from me so that I can't conveniently hit snooze and then go back to bed. The other thing you can do is get an aging cat that meows from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Yeah,
so that's worked really well for me.
But we did, and this is not a laughable matter, it's an actual tragedy. Mike, who loves cats and had a cat who was 16 years old.
Yeah, as far as we know.
Carl,
for 16.
who I think you posted something that was pretty relevant. Like, they choose you, right? Like, a cat, if he doesn't like you or she doesn't like you, just will not bother with you.
Yeah.
But if a cat enjoys your company, they'll bother with you. Your cat showed up at the door and brought years of kind of happiness, and now unfortunately passed. Kind of your experience with that. What's it like in terms of a pet and kind of going through that with little kids? Because it seems like you've had this like life lesson experience too with your youngest.
One of the greatest gifts that any animal pet that you have is like helping your kids kind of deal with this very abstract thing that is a part of life that we are, as a culture, really bad at dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot about repressing feelings. And I did it myself. Like, I didn't want to be upset and emotional about losing a cat, but helping, a 6-year-old figure out what death is or death means, and like the finality of it.
Yeah.
It's such an abstract term. Like, it took like 2 hours for my little one to realize that, like, oh, Carl isn't coming home.
Right.
And then what that actually means in terms of like day to day, whatever. So
it's an interesting thing too. Now, this can get me a lot of anger response or good response, but it is what it is. Like, we try to talk to kids about death and we try to explain it to them. And we're coming from an adult perspective. Like I told you earlier, we were talking about it. It's adults that actually aren't good at dealing with death.
Totally.
I have people come in my office every day that are like, well, I just don't want to know. And I'm like, what don't you want to know? And then it clicked. We've talked about this a lot. That once you know about your health, you are like accountable to it, right? We are so scared of death and we're so bad at dealing with it that there are people on the planet, adults, take this for what it is, that are in their elder years or older than 20, 30, 40, who can fulfill everyday tasks, go to work, raise families, all this stuff. But at the end of the day and at the end of the week, there is a day where they go sit in a large crowd and listen to someone tell them that an afterlife is what will bring them peace. I used to always have a problem with that as a kid because it would always be like, oh, heaven's this peaceful place. And I'd be like, well, why aren't I at peace here? Like, I'm feeling pretty good about myself here. I don't need to bank on that. So that became difficult. But then the explanation of death, you know, as an adult trying to tell a kid, we're not good at it either because we go pray that the next phase of whatever this being is going to be even better.
Yeah.
So like, how do you translate that? And I think it's an amazing thing you said about the cat and animal interaction because you really learn a lot about life with pets and their health. Now, if you transition into our now normal exercise talk, starting out an exercise program or trying to motivate to do something or getting up in the morning, putting your phone on the other side of the room, whatever you need to do, there's always this theory, though, that when somebody shows up to this new world of health, that they need to sacrifice everything, right? You need to give up everything, full 180-degree turn. What do you do when somebody comes in? We touched on this last time, but I want to continue that conversation. How do you take that person that walks in and is so motivated to do so much stuff that they're like, I am ready to change everything? How do you taper that emotion and get them back into the place where it's like, no, we need to change one or two things at a time, and you don't need to sacrifice your whole world to get healthy? How do we start that interaction?
This is all where strategy comes into play. Is they're super motivated, you know, emotionally driven or charged up, but they honestly don't really have any idea what they're committing to.
Right.
And I think that's, you know, the new year kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I'm going to, you know, hit at the reboot Jan 1.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do all this extreme stuff. And it's like, the idea is great.
Yeah.
The execution is terrible.
Yeah.
The plan is non-existent. So you're really setting yourself up for failure because no one complains about hard work when it delivers something.
Right.
People complain about hard work when it is either not productive or is disproportional to the expectation of why they're doing the hard work.
Yep.
The best way to deflate someone is to work really hard, get no results, get no positive traction, and then feel like it's going to be forever.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like you're going to the gym, you're running on the treadmill, you're eating shitty food that you don't like, you're eating not a lot of food, you're tired, you're cranky, you're hungry, and you're like, oh my God, I'm only 10 days in and I haven't lost a pound.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
Right.
So like that's why like channeling that demand for change into one or two things that really become very easy to apply yourself to. So I'd much rather have 100% of you just coming to work out rather than worrying about food, sleep, recovery methods, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, can we get all that momentum behind one thing that hopefully is the biggest lever that they can pull at that time?
Yeah, and it's an interesting also reward system for the human. Like you said, they want that result right away.
Yeah.
It was a very smart marketing tactic by pharmaceuticals and corporate healthcare, being the big hospital systems, to train the humans Pavlovian style that if they have a complaint, my head hurts, we give you a pill, it makes the headache go away. I'll almost guarantee you 50-50 that placebo, even in terms of ibuprofen, NSAID use, or any medicine use on the planet, is probably a pretty big factor. But we've become so trained to just get a result with an ingestion of something. This world is very different. And I was just talking about this with somebody this morning who came in here nice and early to talk. And we were discussing that fact that this is a hard arena if you don't like the process.
Big time.
And part of the retraining is enjoying the process. Like this is going to sound a little sadistic, but I enjoy, like this morning, I did a hold in a pull-up position. I actually like now the back end of that where it hurts to the point where you're like, oh my God, I can't hold on. But that's an enjoyable experience for me now. That means I'm getting the reward for the effort because now I know I'm actually struggling at something that's easy enough that I need to feel the struggle to know I'm getting the end result. But that process and that sensation of work, I think the value of that is hard to instill in people. Do we always use, I want to get into this risk benefit thing. When somebody comes in like that too, you have to weigh their risk benefit against the risk of them not doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
That in medicine becomes a very interesting thing, because a lot of times clients come in and sit with me and they're like, well, I don't want to take that medicine because there's a risk associated with it. And I try to explain to them the risk benefit for them has nothing to do with the risk benefit against a healthy human that doesn't need the medication. What do you think that kind of works into in terms of the exercise world as well, right? Because people are like, well, I don't want to overdo it, I'll hurt myself. Or if they're injured, how do you weigh the risk benefit of continuing to work out? And then overall medicine, what's your take on this new kind of involvement of people in healthcare and what we're trying to push?
Yeah, if you zoom out and you think about decision making, again, as a strategy, and you think about, let's say, something like investment or investing as like a profession, that there's really good investors, like you can think about Warren Buffett, right? And Charlie Munger. All they thought about was risk reward ratios.
Yeah.
So if we just apply that same idea of like, hey, we don't have to hit home runs,
right,
we just can't strike out. So then you find this middle ground, because if you can just get on base over and over and over again, you score.
Yeah.
Right? That's what their philosophy. And once in a while, you will hit a home run.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about in business and in health is that sometimes you hit a home run and don't get one score, you get 20.
Yep.
So like finding those little diamonds that give you this disproportional return is kind of our job, right? Like, so yes, there is a risk associated with everything. There's a risk to do something. There's a risk to not do something.
Right.
So now giving them the idea to actually have an informed decision to choose the risk they want to absorb, right? Because it's like, yeah, you might hurt your back squatting. You might. You will almost definitely fall apart if you don't squat.
Right.
It might just be long, and we talk about death as like this abstract term. Like people don't think about things in abstraction or things that are fairly nonlinear or not in the time frame they're thinking about. But like if you didn't do anything and sat on your couch and ate chips and watched Netflix, what does it look like in 20 years? I can almost give you a definite response.
Yeah. I could walk downtown and show you 10 of those.
100%. So
the interesting thing, risk reward. So I have a patient experience that kind of plays into this. I had an 81-year-old male come into me 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, sent by his family members who were also involved. And the whole thing was he just needed to get checked up. Well, comes to find out, he walks in, he's in chronic AFib, that's irregular heart rate. He had blood sugars, fasting glucoses from 120s up to 150 over the past 3 years. 3 years of elevated blood glucose with a hemoglobin A1C that when I checked it was 6.9. On his last check 4 years ago was 6.2, and at the time he was told just eat a little less carbs and do some cardio. Truly, that was the statement. Okay. So he comes in to see me 18 months ago. I started him on testosterone, thyroid, a very careful nutritional regimen, re-educating him on everything, carbs, proteins, fats, the whole deal. 1 year later, he is not a diabetic. His blood sugar fasting is now down to about 100. His hemoglobin A1C is below diabetic range. We've got him almost down to 6.0. His visceral fat has completely almost disappeared. He's gained 4 pounds of muscle and lost about 10 pounds of fat.
He's 81.
He's 83 now.
Oh.
Right. So he lost muscle and gained fat as an 83-year-old in my office. He walks in yesterday pissed off because he met with his PCP, and his PCP told him that the thyroid medication was cause him heart attack. So without currently, even in this episode now with my hair standing up on my arms, because it actually irritates my visceral sense of satisfaction, I didn't know how to respond because I was either going to drive directly to the PCP's office and be like, I want to strangle you, or explain to the guy sitting across from me, like, everything you did up to the point you met me was going to kill you. You were about to die of diabetes, 100% behind the scenes. We fixed that, and that doctor still has the nerve and urge to tell you that thyroid medicine can irritate your heart. Now, that risk profile, sure, if a brand new baby was born into the world and was a day old with full health and I gave them thyroid unnecessarily without knowing numbers, yes, I can harm that human. But if I'm tracking the data, I'm tracking the numbers, I'm on it, I'm on the doses, I see the person every few weeks, we talk a ton, and I know what's going on in their life, the risk benefit now becomes huge beneficial. Things like that. How do we fight that? How do we explain now, like these med spas with a PA who we get busted on because, well, you're a doctor in the back of a gym. How do you know about hormones in women's health? Except now a random PA APRN is going to open a med spa that they've been doing Botox in for the past 3 months, and they're just going to side gig your hormones.
Yeah.
Like, think about how messed up you got to be. If you're a female, you own a med spa and you're going to side gig hormones for a population of people you've been putting your foot on the back of their neck and drowning for the past 25 years. Does that not show its face in the rest of the world, or is it just me?
Well, we were talking offline before the episode about, like, people need to hear this. Is like, not all doctors are created equal.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the worst student that graduates from medical school is still a doctor.
Yep.
You know, and like, this isn't to throw shade because they're bad lawyers, they're bad trainers,
everything.
They're bad business owners. So it makes me think about this idea of a side hustle, which is really a big thing now. Like, you get paid Monday through Friday to do your job, but on the weekend you work your side hustle, your side gig, so that someday it becomes your real gig.
Yeah.
Right? So, which means that your side hustle, you can't be that good at.
No.
Right? You just can't be. Otherwise, it would be the thing that you do all the time.
Right.
And you'd make the money, you'd have the life, whatever. So for people who have this one stream of income, let's just say in the med spa world, they do Botox or whatever else they do. And then they're like, you know what we'll do? We'll mess with people's hormones until we get enough volume through to be actually kind of good. And that's all we'll do.
Yeah.
So it is either just an economic driver without the proficiency of medical care at the client end user's risk. Not their risk, the end user's risk.
And the best part is, like, they're reasonably good at Botox and all of these other med spa things. Like, they're not even that proficient in that, right? Like, if you have a 3-chair office where you're like seeing maybe a couple 20, 30 people a month, like, and now all of a sudden you're going to add to your business. Like, if you walk in a med spa and they do 3,000 things on your menu, but their main focus isn't hormonal health, then they shouldn't be doing your hormones. I already disagree with half of the IV stuff, right? We're just chucking things in people. I mean, I take care of people with side effects from it all the time. I just had a guy recently who's been getting B12 and B6 IV infusions like constantly, who now has peripheral neuropathy. Like, it happens, people. Now, I'm not going to call out the IV place that did it because I think that's unnecessary. I will place a call to that person. But, like, we got to be a little bit more cognizant. When the side hustle is about health, that's a problem. So if I opened the doors to my medical practice and I was like kind of in and kind of out, you can't really do that either. You can't be a half in, half out, which is why we're looking for MDs and APRNs and PAs to come help. But a lot of people want to do it. Well, I'll give you a little time. Well, no. Do it like I did, because that's the only way to do it. You either got to be 2 feet in or 2 feet out, right? Don't go it alone. I think it's a big deal for everything. And we hit on this last time too, in terms of business, not going alone. But I want to revamp and get back into it a little bit, because a lot of people end up feeling isolated in their health journey, right? It's kind of like, all right, I'm going to go get healthy, but then my partners maybe not, or the people around me maybe aren't. One guy yesterday, we were talking about drinking. He knows exactly that drinking is bothering him. He knows it's the wrong thing. And he said out loud, it's really hard not to do, because at work events, it's kind of this thing where everybody else is doing it and I'm alone. So he's in an environment where he is the solo mission. But how do we take that, build somebody so well that they don't have to go it alone, that it translates into those moments when they are alone and isolated to make the right decision? How do we build that kind of personality trait into people to give them the self-confidence to make the right decisions?
Part of it is just getting them the small wins, because a lot of it is about positive reinforcement, which comes down to your environment.
Right.
So for you to be in this environment where, and we have no problem with alcohol consumption, but if that's the thing that you know is not good for you, and you have no one around you that acknowledge or realize or support that it's not good for you, then you're just technically in the wrong environment.
Right.
So I would just, I don't know the individual you're talking about, but like, can we at least lessen the time that you're in that environment and put you in an environment that is more supportive to the thing that you want to do?
Right.
Right. And that might be family members or co-workers or whatever. But the idea is that you're getting positive reinforcement for the decision you did make for yourself.
Right.
And we've seen it here a million times that people start coming to the gym 3 times a week, and then it's 4 times a week, and then it's 5 times a week, and then it's 5 times a week plus a Saturday.
Yeah.
And they can only do that because they have omitted the other environment that was keeping them from more exposure to the thing they actually like.
Yeah.
So again, it's about, and like the guide or support system in place. This is where people do fail because they say, well, I downloaded this diet off the internet, or I got this app for workouts. And it's no different than if you were going to scale a mountain and you had 2 choices. You said, hey, here's a map and you can figure out how to get there. There's multiple paths up the mountain. Or we have John, who's a seasoned veteran of scaling this mountain, who's done it a million freaking times, and he will take you by your hand
and
up the mountain.
Yeah.
So that you're successful.
Yeah.
Almost guaranteed. It's like, what do you choose?
Well, and it's kind of nuts. Like, people don't, it's funny because right now, if you watch the pod, I'm the doctor and you're the trainer, and there might be people out there like, oh, listen to the doctor, right? He's just a trainer. But I'm going to make a freaking pretty good admission out here if nobody else knows it yet. But like, I wasn't always in very good shape. Like, I played my whole life prior to the residency, essentially I was. And then I did the whole dad bod thing we've talked about. And I was really not in good shape, not very healthy. And it was the trainer guy who I knew climbed the mountain, who I knew continuously climbed the mountain. You always did it. I was like, fuck, like, I need your help. Right. So big doctor, so smart, and I know physiology and all this shit. Well, at the time I had nobody to fucking be like, go do that.
Yeah.
And I needed that. And it wasn't so much that you did go do that. It was like, you coming to work out with me tomorrow? Fuck, I gotta go, right? Because you miss 1 or 2 of those, now this whole thing falls apart. But that motivation, that get with the human who has scaled the mountain. Because we were at Jim Con, I'll give him a little shout out, and they always said something that I can't stop forgetting. It's like, smart people learn by their own mistakes. Geniuses learn by other people's mistakes. Yeah. Like, if you can't take advice from somebody as an adult, you got a problem. Doctors being the worst, not a side entertaining kind of conversation right now, but I had a recent experience with a bunch of doctors, previously mentors. And at some point in life, it's just kind of like the Lion Kingdom too, right? Like, the male lion has a cub and a group of cubs, and then all of a sudden there's one cub that's like, he's a little more pushy, and then he's kind of going on his own. And then, you know what, he shows up one day and that his dad looks at him and is like, oh, where have you been? And the little guy's like, I've been training because I'm coming to take over.
Yeah.
Now you've got a little different battle on your hands. You better have yourself ready for that battle if you're the old lion. My point being, I was trained and mentored by a group of people. We recently were going to have like a nice little business set down. I got delayed to get to that meeting. I texted. Now, normal people, about an hour out, I was like, listen, I'm stuck somewhere. I can't physically get there. I am very sorry. Can I reschedule? Well, someone piped back at me with a pretty demeaning, like, you just let us know 1 hour ago, comma, Marco, officially using my name. Now, that's a talk down to me. We're not in the arena anymore where that guy demands my respect, because my respect now is demanded by people that go to the gym, can work hard, can hustle, put effort into their health, and respect everybody. Like, I was talking to Marcus today before we started this. I said, you're the videographer guy and I'm the big doctor, but we don't work together if we don't value each other.
Right.
Because both of our pieces of information are important. So I spit back at the guy who used to be somebody that truly you would walk by on eggshells, because I was so nervous about irritating him, because I was in his arena and I respected that. But now that disrespect to me people need to realize like there's more brains coming. There's a new age of medicine coming. We are reinventing healthcare. So if you're the old doctor that thinks you're in charge of healthcare by you're in charge of saving people from having strokes and heart attacks, you're going to become a secondary entity. We won't, from RTS Health, let clients get to you if you're not a good doctor, if you're not a good surgeon, and we're really not going to let them get to you because we're going to use preventative care. So if you don't value that, we're going to be at a very big misunderstanding. Do you see in the training world a similar thing? Because medical world is based purely on hierarchy, on time spent in the doctor world, which was where I ran into some problems. Because as a resident, if I saw an adult male physician who, yes, was in years beyond my expertise, but was a schmuck and a loser, like I can't in the locker room respect him, right? So what in the training world, do you guys have the same thing amongst like kind of who's been in it longer, or is there any wave of a new age of kind of this new healthcare trend happening in the exercise world as well?
Well, the fundamental difference between, let's say, medicine and physical fitness is that medicine has a very deliberate track.
Yeah.
Like you have to take your MCATs, you have to go to medical school, you have to get residency, like all that stuff. So there is part of that, like, well, we know what that guy's done. Probably how you sift through it is, oh, he went to Stanford and he went to Harvard and he did his fellowship there. It's like, oh my God, that's what a pedigree that doctor is or has. In the training world, it's like a little bit more superficial because there's less constraints and prerequisites to be a trainer. Like anyone can go take a weekend course and call themselves a trainer. Good, bad, whatever. I'm not saying right or wrong. The problem is it then becomes like, well, how do I know someone's legit?
Yeah.
Am I judging by their Instagram followers? Does he have 100,000? Does he have 50,000? Does he have abs?
Yeah.
Does he stand in front of a Lambo on the weekends?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, social proof. Like how many people does he actually help?
Yeah.
So I think people automatically associate superficial things that don't really tell you about competency in the training world.
Yep.
Which again, it's hard to prove, right? But you can also look at how people operate their gyms and what they want to hang their hat on.
Yep.
We've always been kind of a results-driven kind of company.
Yeah.
And more so when people get to know us, they figure out how process-oriented we are.
Yeah.
Right? And that's something that's really meaningful to us is like, how do we get from point A to point B is a million little things, and you have to master those or at least become somewhat proficient at them to get to that next point.
Right.
And that's what we try to embrace. And the people that do really well with us are not only enthusiastic about that, but want that because they know that drives their new identity that they really want and they're seeking. Yeah.
And I think the cool thing about this place too is like your results for aesthetics. Like if somebody walks in here, I always tell them, you can tell me you just want abs. I don't care.
Yeah, I love it.
Because the way I'll get to you having abs is through the healthy road. Like it's kind of a cool thing to experience because I also get the random, juice heads that like pop in and are like, oh yeah, like I just want to get big. And that's not what we're here for, buddy. Right. Yeah. Like this is real healthcare. Like the 83-year-old who lost fat, gained muscle, visceral fat, liver fat, went down and I cured his diabetes. By the way, no GLP-1s. That was testosterone, thyroid, and good food. Right. So like health is what we do here. That is it. There's an interesting thing I also wanted to get back to in terms of the respect, because as a surgeon, you make it to the top of the hill, right? When you become a surgeon in medical world, you've like made it. You peaked.
Top of the mountain.
So to go back, people look at you kind of like, well, why'd you do that, right? I do not, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and maybe I have a mental problem. I don't understand how you can enter into medical school, matriculate through it, and do what I did and not have to do this. And I don't mean want to, I mean have to. Like, I physically cannot stop doing this and go back to doing surgery because my moral code of trying to find root illness for the human population to be healthier will never be satisfied, because the minute you stop at a surgery level and you are satisfied with doing surgery as your main intervention, you're not a healthcare provider anymore. You are purely a technician who they hired to fix a fucking leaky thing. A healthcare provider is taking what's already healthy and making sure it stays healthy for a really long time. It's not waiting for shit to break. So if you're in the industry of general surgery, neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, you're at the terminal event of somebody's entire metabolic, biopsychosocial, economic well-being crumbling in one moment. Bang. That human needs to come into a hospital given hallucinogenic drugs that also stop you from breathing, completely knock your brain off from your body, cut you open, and fix something. If you are proud that you're intervening in that moment, you can't be proud without acknowledging the fact that the healthcare system fucked up so bad for so long that that person is now sitting under a cold knife that you're cutting them with, right? So I don't even know how I can do that. So when I then speak to surgeons who now are like, well, you went into primary care, and they have decreased value for what I'm doing, it completely throws me off from them. I cannot interact with those people anymore because if they don't have the same mission statement inside about seeking healthcare, I don't align with them. And if we don't align, then we're not the same person. And if we're not the same person on alignment for a priority, we can't work together. Which is why I think this, independent of professional degrees, is working.
Right.
Because we both have the same mission statement for root cause illness. Somebody said, I love RTS. This was yesterday. The gym you've set up and the training style, because they used to just go to CrossFit and they ended up with a lot of injuries from overdoing bigger lifts. Here, they were at first a little frustrated because they're like, well, why am I doing all these weird little movement things? But try to explain that to people. Like, you can't just go throw 100 pounds over your head if you can't like Cuban press a 7-pound dumbbell. Maybe root cause of exercise illness too.
Well, I think about it a couple different ways, and it goes into what you just talked about with the medical community.
Yes.
It's this, people have, whether it's informed or not, this mechanistic view of health, right? And they think, in like the analogy that we're just machines. It's like, okay, so we insure our car. When the brakes go, we put new brakes in, and like, or the roof of your house is leaky, like your insurance pays for a new roof or whatever. People think it's like, oh, I'll just get the surgery or I'll just get the procedure.
Yep.
But they're thinking in terms of that their body is more a machine that's not organic.
Yeah.
If they thought about their health more like a garden where you have to tend to it.
Yes.
Flower it, make sure the nutrients are good, get enough sunlight. And there's an inherent aspect of maintenance and proactiveness that has to go into having a garden that's worth having a garden.
Yeah.
No different than your health. You don't, like, your heart doesn't fail and then you just get a new heart.
Right.
You actually want to keep the heart from failing in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is what the garden, you don't want your garden to die to get a new garden.
Right.
Right? Like, if you get a new car, you get a new car. But the whole idea behind just exercise selection is going to be predicated of what your body can do right now compared to what you want it to be able to accomplish later.
Can I make you look smarter than I think you even knew you were at the time?
I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, because when you started in the training world, you went right to Yale. And Yale was a very Olympic lift-driven program. Because I remember Plisk, when he would train us, we would do all cleans, jerks. We did a lot of deadlifts and squats and bench, right? That was it, really.
Yep.
So that was like general surgery or surgery world in the hospital. That's the ultimate, like, that's the lift. You've made it to the pinnacle. You know how to clean and jerk and da-da-da-da-da. You, whether you knew it or not at that point in time, seemed like you might have been seeking out a more root cause foundational style of exercise. Whether you wanted to think you were new, niche at the time or a new style, you might not have known, but subconsciously you left that environment, opened your own facility, and your training style was not like that.
Right.
You instantly went to, yes, there were Olympic style lifts at some point in your experience, but you were always the guy that we were like doing weird band shit, like reverse pull on my deltoid, and I don't even know what's going on. Then all of a sudden you can bench more weight. So whether you knew it or not, you were already doing the hunt for root cause, because you dealt with athletes at the time. You told me a lot of hamstrings and a lot of like injuries that you got handed from previous mistraining fixed a lot of them with your style, and then didn't get along with Yale enough that you opened up this place. And we have very few soft tissue debilitating injuries here. Do we get itises? Yeah. I mean, that there's no way not to. But do we get big, nasty blowouts? Not a whole lot. A lot of achy movement, recovery type stuff, maybe lack of sleep, stuff like that. But we don't get huge things. So congratulations on like whether you knew it or not at the time. You were already seeking root cause, maybe similar in the same path as I was, because you just weren't satisfied with what you were seeing. I think recovery, we got a couple minutes left. Recovery is one of these things that no matter what, we can talk to people over and over and over again, but it is so important. And your downtime is so important. Last week, I didn't feel so good. I did a couple things. Mike said, take the week off. We went real light. I feel incredible this week, right? It was a forced recovery time. Give them how passionate you are about recovery and how important it is really to nail that down.
The first thing I think about with recovery is that you should earn it. So if you're not training hard enough to necessitate recovery, and your lack of recovery is from everything but the training, then let's address those things. So people can have shitty sleep, bad food, and the training's perfect, but then they're seeking these external methods of recovery. And that's why the biohacking world, like the supplements and the cold plunges and all that stuff, has really garnered, because people are like, oh, that's me. I'm not recovering from my workouts. But it's not the workout. It's everything peripheral to the workout. It's your shitty relationship, the job you hate, whatever. So it's like, what are we trying? Like, because recovery also should be very directed and pointed. What are we recovering from? You know, because if we're not if we're using a recovery method for training really hard and we're not training really hard, what are you going to do? You're going to waste time, money, resources, and then not get better and not have any improvements. So I think you have to be very specific with what you're recovering from. Because if it's your girlfriend that is driving you nuts, I don't have a recovery method. I'm sorry. Like, you know, like, let's figure out what that is, right? Also on the recovery side, it's that we're getting so far away from things that we know that are proven to aid in recovery, facilitate development and adaptation, which is the simple stuff that no one wants to talk about. Sleep, hydration, nutritious food, adequate carbohydrates, and stress management. If you just did those things, there would be no such thing as biohacking. But those are the simple, not easy things that people don't want to hear, because to your point earlier about the value, perceived value of taking a pill, putting boots on, hanging upside down, or whatever else is being sold to you, those seem like that value is way better than just doing the basics really freaking good.
Well, it was also that same older gentleman then said at one point, like, what am I paying for? How much does the testosterone and thyroid cost? Why am I paying all this money? And I also couldn't say it enough. Like, you're not getting charged here for the goods. You can go online and buy anything, right? That value, I don't perceive any value in the medicines I deliver. Zero. I actually think they should be zero cost. Like, I should just be able to hand you any medication on the planet should be zero cost to the consumer. But the administration of it in the right way, playing real biochem. If you come into a biochem lab and you have a tabletop final in whatever biochem class you have in college, and they sit you in front of a bunch of chemicals and a bunch of beakers, and they tell you, figure out what's in beaker D, you better know what you're doing. And unfortunately, people, when you sit across from a doctor, sometimes they don't appreciate the fact that you're a large biochem experiment. The problem is when we fuck it up and you die, a lot of times you don't even know that we fucked it up, because the medical community has so much good distracting material on Instagram, on social media, on the internet. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, somebody yesterday told me, Marco, I don't know if I can listen to your advice on women's health because you're not a board certified OBGYN. And I said, that is correct. And I said, I will never submit to the board of OBGYN for acceptance. And she sat back and I said, for 20 years, those people signed a piece of paper with data that killed people. Okay? Lied, deceived, anti-health. So no, people, I do not want recognition from the National OBGYN Society. I am not in accordance with them. I'm in accordance with healthcare, RTS Health, and we will establish a healthy environment with root cause illness to be addressed. Anybody, some final closing comments? Because I feel like we're almost done. Marcus?
I don't.
Any good travels coming up?
Marcus.
He's a man of many words.
Yeah. What an orator.
He is good looking though today. He did his hair. Did you do your hair?
Little bit, little something. Little
go in the barber and be like, give me the Julius Caesar?
Can you, by the way, can you update us on girlfriends?
People want to know.
Little something going on, you know.
All right. Ladies, he is single technically. And he's a really, 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 really good talker. He tells funny jokes. All right, people. Aggressively healthy. Any questions, concerns, let us know. Email, DM, whatever you got to do. Enjoy the weekend.